Alfonso, my man, if you're good, we're gonna jump right in because
Let's do it. Let's do
I
it,
find
baby.
the best stuff always happens before or after I hit record on this goddamn show. So we're just gonna jump into it. So welcome everybody back to Mic'd Up Millionaires. Today I got Alfonso, the Godfather Quadra. So this is actually the first time we're meeting. You come highly recommended
Yeah,
to
how
be on the
come?
show.
Why is that? Why is that, Adam? Come on.
Hey, I don't even know. I'm waiting for you to tell me. Peter just said, hey, you are going to have Alfonso on the show. And I said, well, if Peter's got that type of conviction, I know you're going to be fun. And you come on here just rocking a pink blazer with all the energy in the world. You got a beautiful pocket square. You're pumped up. I think it's going to be a good show. So
Well,
Alfonso,
I just want to correct you. Fuchsia.
okay, it's fuck. We're off to a great start. It's fuchsia. Okay.
Fuchsia.
We got fuchsia blazers. So everybody, if you're not watching the video, just jump off for here right now. Get off of Spotify, go to YouTube. So Alfonso, man, tell me about yourself. Who are you? How are you? What's going on this lovely Wednesday?
Adam, you know what? It's so nice to meet you. You know, like I love meeting other real estate entrepreneurs. You know, you've been around for a while. Just previously talking before the show, you're talking about pre-COVID, you know, like bringing me back down memory lane.
Yeah, I've been around since been around.
Well, that's why they called me the Godfather. It's because I've been in business for 27 years. I've been in real estate for 23 years. And for the past 15 years, I've been a speaker, mentor, coach, trainer in real estate. Basically, Adam, if you could put it this way, my mission is to help people get to that financial freedom through real estate. And ultimately, I'm a freedom fighter, right? And so because I've been doing this for a long time, people have come through my trainings, I've mentored thousands of people. I've created thousands of millionaires. People have started their own programs. And so people, at some point, somewhere, someone said, hey, you're like the Godfather of real estate. And I was like, you know what, like I didn't like nicknames before, but I like that one. You know, it was I thought it was pretty neat. And you know what, I leaned into it a little bit.
That's awesome, man. Nobody ever calls me anything that cool. So you're off to a good, maybe in 20 more years, I'll have the same effect. I'll get a cool nickname. Around,
it just I'm just you know what it means. It means I'm old.
Yeah. Nice. Well, yeah, man. I mean, I've really only been in real estate for 4 years now or 5 years. And it's been a hell of a ride. Like, I started when I found Matt McKeever as my mentor. Like Peter was explaining to you, I came on one of his limo tours, immediately quit my job, started driving every day from Guelph to London, and essentially volunteering to work with Matt to get mentorship from him. And that eventually led into me getting my very first deal after knocking, hundreds of doors and sending out a bunch of flyers and magnets and door knockers. Cool. And I ended up locking in a 96% vendor take back mortgage at 3% for 13 years. And that was kind of my intro to real estate. And that got me very passionate about, hanging around with the right people, first of all, right? Because without mentorship, I wouldn't have even known what a vendor take back was or seller financing. I really wouldn't have understood the power of that type of leverage, because I was able to go and borrow essentially the remainder from my mentor. And then, another part of the story is, like, in order to get closing costs, I essentially had to trade in my car at the time for a truck, because the dealer was offering me 120% financing on the truck. So I went into that bitch just fully leveraged. I went crazy. I got the first deal done. I house hacked it, did an Airbnb with it. Then I did student rental and eventually ended up selling it in 2020 or something like that. So it was, it's been a hell of a ride. And since then, like, I picked up a bunch of units and had a lot of fun building up my wholesale company. And in the past few months, we've been kind of exploring other avenues, right? We've been looking at, like, I've done a bunch of private lending, been getting into cryptocurrencies and NFTs and Web3, and just seeing what's happening there, kind of dabbling, if you will, and just
Nice.
sort of kind of walked into a 7-figure portfolio there through nothing but sheer stupid luck. So, that's been exciting for me, but I'm certainly still interested in the things that are systematic, right? The things that are able to be reproduced. Like if you ask me to go do what I did in crypto again, I would not be able to reproduce the results, right? And so that's not a good experiment if you can't reproduce the results. So this is why I want to keep talking to guys like you.
Yeah, well, the thing about real estate, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, that's what I love about it. I mean, there is some strategies like that are very market specific, like the wholesaling, the flipping, the SDUs. But my space is actually quite boring. If you ask anybody, it's not as exciting, or the ups and downs of the crypto and the stock market. I buy apartment buildings, right?
Yep.
And I started in apartment buildings right from the beginning. I just saw the economy of scale. I saw this idea that you could spread the risk amongst multiple units, and I was able to just repeat that, throughout North America. And now I have real estate all across Canada, apartment buildings mostly, and that's what I teach people. Just to do what I've done, right? I just do. Just here's the template. Just do it.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So do you find that still excites you? Like, do you get excited by new acquisitions? Is it
the acquisition?
What about it keeps you going?
Yeah, so the acquisition part is exciting. It's like going to the gym for some people, right? Like they have to release endorphins.
Yep.
And there's something that happens to the body and the stress, and like, oh man, and you tell yourself, oh, that's the last one, like for a while, and then you go through all of this stuff, like you're doing 10, 20, $30 million deals, and then it's all done, and you sign all the papers, and it's yours, and then you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe I can do one more.
Yeah, for sure.
So it does really get me going. But I get the most joy and fulfillment from helping people go through that, right?
Yeah.
I love acquisitions, and I'm not going to stop doing it, but my life has really shifted from the things that I wanted, like what I wanted in my life, to how I was going to use my life in order to inspire others to live their lives to the highest capacity. And so things have shifted for me, especially in the last 15 years. When I was 30 years old, I'm 45 now. So at 30, I was financially free. I didn't have to work another day in my life. And I did a lot of soul searching. And I came to the conclusion that I didn't want to sit on a beach for the rest of my life. What I really wanted to do is live a life of fulfillment, and helping people is what brings me fulfillment. And I don't want to be remembered for the doors. I don't want to be remembered for the amount of apartment buildings or the cars or anything, or the fuchsia blazers. I want to be remembered for all of the people that I've helped. And when I'm no longer here on this physical space, this universe, I want people to talk about all the people that I've helped, and ultimately that will be my legacy.
Awesome. It sounds like transcendence is kind of important to you, right?
Bit
of the getting towards the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs there.
Well,
what led you on that path?
Well, you know what? Like, look, I came from war-torn country, El Salvador. Actually, I was in 2 wars before I was 9 years old. Immigrated to Canada as a refugee. I didn't do well in school, Adam. I wasn't, I missed a lot of educational opportunities being in a country at war, but just really wasn't interested in what they had to teach me in school. Eventually, I ran with the wrong crowd, ended up dropping out of high school at 15, leaving home. Now I'm completely on my own at 15, homeless in some parts of my life, some really dark parts of my life. And, I learned a lot, and I had a life-changing moment when I was 17, when I became a father. And that actually gave me purpose. It gave me a drive I wanted to make that little girl proud. And I started my own business at 17, that by the time I was 21, that business was across Canada. It was a nationwide operation making millions of dollars. And so ultimately, why does that give me fulfillment? Like helping people, like that legacy piece? Because when I was 15, homeless, living in banks, sleeping in banks, and panhandling for change, if someone would have tapped me on the shoulder and said, Alfonso, like, um, this could be your life, you could have freedom, you can have all these things, I would have said, you're crazy, right? I never had that guidance, I never had that mentorship. And I want to be that for people. There's people that, maybe they're watching this right now and they're going through a dark period in their time, or maybe everything is okay, but something's missing and they're looking for fulfillment. Fulfillment comes from exploring and trying the things that bring you passion. And for a lot of people sitting at a 9 to 5, it's not going to happen, right? You're going to spend the rest of your life in front of a computer. That may not bring you fulfillment. To some people it may, but I would say to most it won't. And so I'm a freedom fighter. I fight for people's financial freedom, and when I'm going, when I'm doing all of my shows, I'm going coast to coast, bringing the financial freedom. I'm on a financial freedom convoy, coming your way.
I love it, man. Are you this kind of full circle then? If you have been paying attention at all to El Salvador in the last couple of years, have you been witnessing or paying any attention to what they've been doing with cryptocurrency and decentralization?
Yeah, well, because I, to me, crypto, Bitcoin, whatever it is that, whatever, currency there is, to me, it's just an exchange, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, you want to pay your rent in crypto, Bitcoin, whatever, however you pay your rent, I don't care, just make it easy for me to put it into more real estate.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I store the wealth, right?
Yeah.
Everything else is just trade. If you pay me in Bitcoin, I'm going to convert it back to real estate anyways.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot of utility to it. I really enjoy it, but to be honest with you, I don't have like desire to invest in Bitcoin. Not because I don't think it's an asset class. I think it's a legitimate asset class.
Yeah.
It's just it's, to me, it's like, it's a no-brainer, like apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And so back to your question, like my country, adopting Bitcoin as a currency, it's an official legal currency. First of all, my family never will use Bitcoin, or has not, you know what I mean? So that,
yeah,
we didn't even have a currency to begin with, right? What it does do is it does open some doors for people to come in and trade in Bitcoin, or, in cryptocurrency, because, there's not a lot of places where they can do that. So from that perspective, from I guess from a world stage, I think that was a good move, but I don't know much about it to be able to have more insight other than that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of people are viewing El Salvador as kind of like a Bitcoin haven, where there's, potentially going to be an increased adoption there. As a technology, perhaps it helps combat some of the issues that you run into with countries like El Salvador that can have shaky governments or shaky financial policies that can lead to like rampant inflation, hyperinflation, and things like that.
Well, Adam, I don't know if you know this, but we didn't have a currency to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. So our currency, we use the US dollar.
Yeah.
That's the currency, right?
Yeah.
So,
which is not our best currency at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if we've been.
But for example, my mom,
Yep.
Like, we send money back home.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
Right. And so they need US dollars over there. Right. So they don't like Bitcoin. I tried, like, hey, there's Bitcoin now. They're like, can we buy like pupusas with it? Like, we can't buy
some
like
greenbacks,
eggs with it. Like, they don't. To them, it's like, to the average person in El Salvador, that's just it doesn't mean anything because it's not tangible for them, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like the world on a world stage for people to go there and trade and maybe have conferences there, bring tourism there. I think that's where it's you know I think that's where it's positive.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
one thing you talked about there, I find really fascinating, because I don't think like like, I mean, there's obviously a very deep connection to having a child, right? But I'm surprised to hear that at 17 you had the emotional intelligence to like really have that click. Like it literally clicked so hard that within, 5 years you were able to develop a successful business on like a national scale. Like I know a lot of people get kicked in the ass a lot, and like maybe not to the point where they're homeless and sleeping inside the bank or whatever at night to, I assume, avoid some cold and things like that. But
Well, we're also
uh,
not promoting for people to have kids.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. But it's fascinating to me that you had the emotional intelligence and drive and coordination and all the things that would be required to build up a brand and build a company like that. What were some of the initial challenges? Like how did you generate ideas for a business? How did you get the resources for that? Who did you have to leverage, and what actions did you have to take to go from, what I'm sure we can call essentially zero to the point at which you're building a profitable business?
That's a really good question. So when I grew up with no father. So we were in war in El Salvador, and then we had at some point we had moved to Nicaragua, communist Nicaragua. And during all that time of war, my pretty much my dad took off. And so, at 12 years old, I think if I would have needed a dad, my mom did an amazing job. She was my mom and my dad. She taught me a lot of amazing things about life, integrity, kind of the man that I am today, my respect for women, and all of these things were good things. But at some point, I think I missed that father figure in my life, and I always wondered, like, why would he leave me, or like I had, you have all these, you come to all these conclusions in your mind, especially at 12 years old. So of course I didn't go out thinking I should be a father or have a kid at 17. I mean, it's a baby's having babies, basically what it is. But for me, when I was in that hospital room and my life was in shambles and I had no self-worth, I had very low, uh, very little self-confidence. When they put that baby in my arms, everything changed, right? It's like it wasn't even about me anymore at that point. It was like about this, this new human that I've brought into the world, and everything has instructions, like even shampoo. You buy shampoo, you read the back of the bottle. It's like, apply, rinse and repeat, right? It's got instructions. But a baby, like they give you a baby and there is no instructions. You're like responsible for another human's development and another human life. And I was like, there was no way I was going to be like my dad that was not there. And I guess that's what drove me, and that gave me purpose and a why. I didn't have any background in business. What I did know is I had to go back to school right away, and I went back to school. I was trying to put my life back together. And so I went back to school. I got a job at a restaurant, $5 an hour. That was the minimum wage back then. And so I was like, geez, this is not gonna work out, And so I remember I was on Young Street and I had my paycheck. It was like for 2 weeks work, $250. And there was this guy selling jeans on Young Street. And he had jeans, some t-shirts, and I can't remember what else. So, I mean, maybe a few mixtapes. Maybe you're too young, you might not know what a mixtape is. But I asked him how much for the jeans, and he said, they're like $40 or something. But if I were to buy like a few, like maybe 4, he'd give it to me like at $20 a pop. And what I did was I basically took the 250 and I bought some jeans, and then I brought them to my school in Ottawa. So from Yonge Street, obviously people didn't have access to Toronto. And in school, I sold the jeans that I bought for $20 for $60. And I remember like the first time I did that, I bought something for 20, I sold it for 60, making a $40 profit in a 10-minute transaction. And I said, like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to pursue profits, right? Because that evening I had to go back. Yes, sir. That evening I had to go back to a job that was paying me $5 an hour, And so to me, it was clear the path that I was going to take. It was going to be a path of business, and I was going to pursue profits for the rest of my life. At 19, I graduated from high school with a vision, a dream, and an idea of opening my very own clothing store. And, for the past, 2 years, I've been selling T-shirts and mixtapes and jeans. And, I was that kid with the backpack, always with something to sell. And so my dream was like, okay, a physical location. People said, well, Ottawa, I don't know. It's like this hip hop thing is just a fad. I mean, this is 1996, 7, and 8. They're like, oh, this hip hop thing is just a fad. We're not sure. And Ottawa, it's really, people don't have fashion there. Right. So I'm like, yeah, this is why I want to open this store here, because there isn't anything. And ultimately, I ended up convincing a lot of my friends to invest, and put together about $2,700. And I went to the US. We bought like we spent all the money on gear, brought it back, and I made that trip a few times. And then, that physical location grew to, pretty much stores all across Canada.
Damn, that's quite the story. That's we're flipping denim in here, and that's what got it all started. I like that. In the 90s too, of all things. So
yeah, man, before the internet.
Got those freaking lowriders, man. Snoop Dogg's rolling in the back of the El Camino, just killing it. I like that. I was actually listening to
if you see behind me here.
Yeah.
Since you bring it up, you really brought me down memory lane. This is Reader's Digest, and this article, Reader's Digest, it's essentially one of the biggest publications in the world.
Yep.
And this article, it was a 7-page profile they did on my life, and it went to like over 15 countries around the world, translated into 5 different languages, including Mandarin. And ultimately was about my first business, right? But if you see me here, I'm going through a transition,
Yeah.
And that transition was developing my going to that next level, from that hip hop head entrepreneur to having a legitimate business and having multiple streams of income. And for me, that multiple streams of income included real estate. And that's kind of why I got into real estate, because, I was doing what I loved. I loved hip hop, but I wasn't very much of a business person. I was very much a consumer. I mean, at 21 years old, you're doing well. You're going to spend all your money on stuff.
To say the least. To say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it was important for me to learn that lesson, Adam. But ultimately, what ended up happening was that I had to make a transition into a real legitimate business person with the investor mindset, or else I was in a position where at one point, so 21, I was like on top of the world, stores all across Canada, making millions of dollars. And at 24, I was at the brink of bankruptcy, almost about to lose everything, because I lacked that financial literacy, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to invest, and especially the young people. I have a foundation where our mandate is to teach financial literacy to young people. And so everything that I do has to do with everything that I've done. It's all connected. um, Hip hop led My love of hip hop led into this real estate business that I'm in. Ultimately, it led into helping people reach financial freedom. I'm passionate about that. And you know for me especially, I don't think, because the original question was, how did I figure it all out? I just you know kind of felt my way through, my man. I looked for people that had the skills that I needed. I believe in people. And ultimately, to answer your question, it was people that got me to where I am today.
That's awesome. And I imagine like a large part of that is mentorship. So how did you find mentors in your life? Where did you seek these people out?
I've had many mentors in all different capacities, right? Like sometimes indirectly, right? There's people that you follow and that inspire you, and indirectly they're my mentors. Like people that I listen to, people that I'm influenced by. Um, I'd like at one point when I had my business at 21, I had moved to Miami, and I had this idea that I wanted to build my company out in the U.S. But ultimately, I just went there to play. I didn't really accomplish much, but I did meet one of my first mentors there. I mean, this guy was wealthy, and I said, "This is the kind of person that I want to get advice from." And if anybody's watching this, and you really bring up a good subject, mentorship. If you are looking for a mentor, and if you're looking for advice, look for people that have the results that you're looking for, right? Don't ask your buddies, don't ask someone that is, taking the bus with you, or someone that is, working beside you, or like, look for people that have the results that you ultimately want, and seek their mentorship, seek their guidance. And ultimately, that was the first time I ever saw someone that was that wealthy. And I became a sponge, right? And I asked like a million questions, and obviously I annoyed that person. But you know what? I got a ton of advice that I still live by today. And I'm so thankful. And then ultimately, throughout the years of anytime I've ever wanted to do anything, um, or jump into anything, I always look for the people that have the results that I'm looking for in that field. And then I reach out for mentorship. Sometimes I've paid for it. I've invested a lot into coaching, mentoring, and in my own personal development to get me to the point where I am today. And I encourage anybody watching this, look for someone. Doesn't have to be me, but find someone that has the results that you're looking for, and ultimately reach out and figure out how you can get it done.
Yeah, like if you're homeless right now, listening to Mic'd Up Millionaires, sleeping in the branch on the floor of the bank, you probably don't want to be getting your mentorship from the dudes sleeping beside you on the floor at the bank. Maybe punch up a little, hit up the branch manager, see what's up there, right?
Well, I mean, it's hard, and that's a really good point that you bring up, Adam, because sometimes the focus is the focus is in the wrong place, right? This is why people from Latin America, you're like, oh, why can't they just like get out of those situations? Well, sometimes when you're holding the door closed of like uh, you know poverty and hunger and wars and gang members and like drug lords, you're holding that closed, you really can't focus on anything else, right? And I often meet people that their their focus is on like, oh, I want to do all these things, but they haven't like really handle their business. They're just immediate needs, right? And sometimes you have to take care of your immediate needs. Like if you are in that position, it's hard to look at where you can go and what you're capable of and what your potential is if all you're doing is figuring out how to survive that day. And so your first goal should be like, how can I get my life together? Like, how can I get back to society? How can I, you know, how can I figure all my stuff out so now my head is clear so I can think about the next step, right? So you may need different levels of mentorship. Maybe it's a mentorship where, you know what, I need someone to help me put my life together. So once it's together, we can now move to the next level.
Yeah, I think there's an excellent quote that is perhaps more relevant to like the average listener here, which is just clean your room, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I think it was the American admiral or a general of some
Or
kind.
make your bed.
Make your bed, dude. Like some of this stuff is very basic, but like I often do I make fun of we run this daily show on Twitter, and I make fun of people. I go like, hey, you're probably sitting at your computer right now. Just like look down, look around. How fucked up is your desk right now? Right. And like, how are you? Yeah, I'm going to hit you with that right now. So
I got some piles of files around.
Right. So, and you're like, well, man, how can I even, how can I get 1% better? And it doesn't even need to be that crazy. Right. And we talk about this all the time with physical fitness and health. It's like, you don't actually need to be an Olympic athlete to get 1% better, right? You just need to probably like go for that walk that you've been putting off, right? Or, if you're at a higher level, then maybe it's like, add that workout to your calendar. Or if you're at an even higher level than that, like maybe you do actually consider getting a coach for your fitness. And then at a higher level than that, it's like, well, maybe you do start setting personal records or personal bests. And then, you just kind of scale it up as you go. And I think it does start with some of the more simplistic stuff. And a lot of people don't see the cleaning the room analogy extending to their friends and family and immediate social circle. And I think that's where a lot of people would benefit most, actually, is like, I think the biggest opportunities lie in the things that we can actually control. So like you probably do, like there's exceptions, but you probably do control your physical fitness, right? Like in the sense of like, don't tell me I don't have a gym or I don't have money to access a gym. And say, I don't give a shit about that, bro. You got body weight and like you can get super jacked on your body weight. In the same way, you can also control, right, the state of your room. That's like the simple one. And even if you can't control the state of your whole house, maybe you're living with roommates, maybe you're living with your family and you can't control the state of the whole house. Well, make sure your room's the cleanest, right? And set that example for their environment around you. But once you're past that, then it's like, well, who am I working with? What environment am I working in? Right. I think it's really hard for people that are working in like a factory or something where everybody is constantly talking about, how exciting it is to just get to Friday, to get to that weekend and then party and let's go. Or like, the contractor who works with a bunch of guys who are talking about drinking and how miserable their spouses are and shit like that. And like, if that's who's surrounding you, then like, what are the odds you're going to be breaking out of that? And so I think, who do you work with?
And in that mindset,
yeah,
you reach out for a mentor, right? Like, like, hey, can you help me? Like you kind of have to clean your life up first, start hanging around with better people. And then from there, you have context of where you're going. I like to say that it's good to have your basic needs met somehow.
Yep.
And so now you can look forward. I don't like the side hustle. I hate the side hustle. When people talk about the side, why are you going to have another job? Why not make the side empire building and figure out how to create something long lasting on the side versus, going to a job and doing another job like the side hustle, And so, and it goes back to what you were saying, like make sure your house is in order. And then, so now you can reach out to mentors and you can actually take action on the things that they're going to say to you. There's nothing worse for me if someone asked me for my advice and then they come back for more advice and they didn't do the thing that I asked them to do
Yeah.
in the first place, you know what I mean? And maybe
Yeah.
they were just not in a, they weren't capable of doing it, right? And they just didn't have the infrastructure set up for them to even participate in something that they could get them out of that comfort zone. And so what you're saying is so true. And I'm a big believer in becoming, right? When whatever, you're sitting in the factory, you're sitting around your friends that are complaining about their wives, you're homeless or whatever, ask yourself, you know, if you have goals, which are great, to think about what your life could be, and maybe at the very beginning you can't see that far, but ask yourself, who do I need to become in order to be a direct match to that life that I want, right? Who do I need to talk to? What books would I read? What would my lifestyle look like? How would I wake up in the morning, right? What would my bedroom look like? What would my house look like? All of these questions, if you can answer all of these questions in detail and then go out and become that person, then we start to attract all the right people, the right circumstances, the right ideas, the right mentors, the right everything to match the person we've just become. And I'm a big believer on that. And like that can happen instantly. The second someone decides to become that, it's instant. And maybe it's going to take a little bit of time for them to start attracting all the right pieces, but it starts with the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've absolutely found this in my life too. Like if I looked at the person who I wanted to become and I started taking those steps, like you start putting yourselves in the right rooms and the people just kind of actually gravitate to you. And I found that if you're taking the right level of action, you become interesting to those people and they actually want to help you because they believe that you will implement the advice that they have to give, right? And I found this even at our gym, just as a random example. Like, you know, what would the person I want to be doing? Well, they'd be at the gym that has it turned out to be a high priced membership because it had very high quality coaching and it had very high quality equipment and a very high quality clientele. And so while you're there and you're putting out effort, right, you're beside the real estate lawyer that you were hoping to connect with. You're actually beside the other investors you were hoping to connect with. Oh, and oh, look at that. The restaurateurs that you were hoping to eat at those restaurants, because that's actually probably where that ideal person is going to be as well. They'd be, you know, at some of these nicer restaurants in the city and in some of the clubs. And oh my God, members of that club, they're here. And now you've got that introduction and they can actually build all the bridges to the other connections that you need. And that's one simple example of like just going to a high quality gym where other, other entrepreneurs are going to be, other professionals, other wealthy people. And it's like, yeah, it's a bit expensive, but that's like $150 a month that it will never do you wrong. I mean, worst case, you come out more fit, more healthy, more energetic, and more focused on, on yourself. And so you can actually put out more energy in towards building your business. Best case, you get all those benefits, but you also get a very strong network in your city. And so like, just as one tiny example of that, like absolutely that works. And from there, it's kind of a snowball effect to who you can meet and what you can do with those people. And I've always found that like people are so much more fascinating and so much more interesting than any type of like strategy or tactics or whatever. Like if I could meet a great person, they're going to give you lessons that, years of college can never teach you. Maybe lifetimes of trying and failing at the wrong things. Like somebody might just say a sentence, a simple one-liner that just changes the trajectory of your life, right?
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm a student, like I'm a professional student, and doesn't matter. Like, okay, yeah, I have real estate all across Canada. Like I'm a trainer, speaker. I do all these things, but at the end of the day, I'm a student, right? And I always want to be in the position where I'm always consistently learning about something, or else you're dying, right? If you're not learning or growing, you're dying. And I'm a big believer in expansion and always being consistent expansion. And so I put myself in situations where either I'm uncomfortable or I have to learn something, or I reach out to someone that, maybe quote unquote, out of my league or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, I pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, I'm going through this situation. Like, I know that we don't know each other, but what do you think about this? And you'll be surprised at the people that are willing to help and support you, as long as you have the right attitude, and as long as you're willing to invest in yourself, right? And what you were saying before about the gym, whatever the price, I don't care about the price. You know what I mean? Like, if you're focused about cost, if that's your focus, then you're never going to get anywhere, because the focus should be on the return on investment, on making an investment into yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So on that note, like, what are some of the flops that you've had to encounter? And then, like, how did you turn those around and take those into opportunities?
Well, like I was saying, my first business, my clothing store, I was living it up in Miami while my business was suffering. And, I went from making millions of dollars to being in debt by $1 million. I was a negative $1 million, right? Like, no, like my everything I had was like negative $1 million, right? Uh, Suppliers stopped shipping because I couldn't pay them. I was behind. Stores started to close. Key employees were stealing from me. And obviously, when people sense the ship and the ship is sinking, they're just gonna people just they're humans, and they're gonna, obviously, everyone's gonna try to survive and get the most out of it. And so I was in a really tough place. And when I came back, to Canada to rebuild my business, my accountant basically said, you should probably claim bankruptcy, and that would be the answer. And I remember being really depressed about that. I actually remember stepping out of my store, and there was a homeless person there, and that guy was like asking me for change. And I remember thinking to myself, like, geez, like, this guy is worth more than I am right now. He's worth nothing. I'm negative $1 million right now. And I remember being very hard on myself, and remembering why I was there in the first place. Obviously, it was to make my daughter proud. I think I ended up in that situation because I didn't remember my why. I didn't remember the purpose. The whole purpose for me was, when I was 17, I wanted to make this little girl proud of me, and that was the one thing that kept me moving forward. I had this drive. After, in my 20s, I almost like lost sight of that. So now I find myself 24, and in a really dark place again. And I remember one day I woke up and I was like, no, I can't let this be the end of the story, And I remember looking at myself into the mirror and said, no, I'm going to fight for this, right? So what I actually ended up doing was I sold everything. Like, I was really overspending. When we talk about consumerism, I was just like, my mindset was there, right? So I sold everything. I discovered how much stuff is worthless when you go and resell it, right? And
Yes.
I sold everything, and I sold the only thing that had made money, or had increased in value, or had retained its value, was when I was 21. I had bought a house, and so I sold everything: the jewelry, the cars. I went from driving a Mercedes, Cadillac Escalade, BMWs, to like a Dodge Neon, right? Um,
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Not to, hey, you know what? I'm not hating anybody that's driving a Dodge Neon right now. If you're driving a Dodge Neon right now, you are in the best place right now. That's where I was, and basically what I did was I reduced my cost of living. I went back and to rebuild my company. I went back and I worked 9 to 9, 7 days a week without pay. I poured everything back into the company, and I was going to fight for it, right? And then from 9:01 to 1 a.m., I made a decision that I was going to create a second stream of income that was indestructible so that this would never happen to me again. And that's how I started building my real estate portfolio in the evenings after I would put in, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours of work to rebuild my company. I bought my first move was buying a triplex that I added an extra unit, converting it into a triplex. I quickly refied that money. So when I sold my house, I had $93,000. That was like the seed money that I used in order to, I did, my first strategy was the burst strategy, right? So I bought a duplex, converted into a triplex, moved into one of the units. So I was house hacking, living for free, refied it, pulled the money within that month, and kept moving that money forward. Where my first year, I bought 10 properties. And then my company was now, it took me about a year and a half to go back into the black. So I saved my company to a point where it was bigger and better than ever before. And at this point now, I felt like I had full control over my life. And when I was 30, I sold the company for a nice check.
That's so awesome, man. That's such a crazy story. I love that. I'm wondering now, like at this point, how do you go about like setting up your goals at this point? Like, is it kind of just something that's on autopilot for you, or is this something that you put a lot of thought towards? And the context for that, the context for this question is, I actually have a meeting coming up tomorrow that has been scaring the shit out of me. And I mean this seriously. And it's weird because I don't know why this freaks me out so much. But the meeting is generally speaking with one of my business partners and my girlfriend, really, and we're trying to figure out a 5-year goal. And like, I don't know why, but this is like a debilitating type of thought process for me. Like, I cannot think on that type of level because like, I just look at the last 5 years and I'm like, well, any type of thinking I would have done would have had zero impact on like where I am today, because like, so much shit has happened and so fast and so on such a compounding scale that like, I just don't know how to either think big enough or like how to nail it down. So for you, how do you tackle this conscious process? Like, is this conscious for you, or is it just happen that like, oh, another deal kind of showed up on my desk, I should maybe tackle it?
When I was 17 years old, as a result of being a young father, what I thought the right thing to do was get a job. And the job was washing dishes at a restaurant for $5 an hour. Now, for anybody watching this, either now or in the future at some point, I have no worries about saying that that's the worst job that exists. Somebody may contest me, but you can comment down below if you had a worse job than a dishwasher. Okay, that was my own. That was the last time I had a job, and I didn't have the luxury of quitting. I had no, obviously we want to quit. At 17, it's easy to quit because you're like, screw this job, right? But for me, I was a father. I didn't have the luxury. I'm like, I had something bigger than myself to keep me going. And so what I would do is on breaks, I would go into the break room, well, the smoking room, before I used to be able to smoke inside. And then I would sit down and I would take a piece of paper and I would write down all my goals and dreams, everything that I wanted to achieve in my entire life. And for me, it was a way to keep me moving forward because I knew this job wasn't going to be where I was going to be for the rest of my life, right? And I think, in by the way, those things that I was writing down on that piece of paper were probably very materialistic because I was 17 from a perspective of a 17-year-old, right? But I achieved everything on that piece of paper before I even turned 21 years old, right? Now, mostly I operated out of default, right? Like things would happen and I just would pursue them. But when I learned how to manage companies, like first I was just like operating like this. I almost lost everything. It caused me to really reflect on my life and rebuild my company the right way. I learned that companies operate quarter by quarter, and what they look at is P&L reports, profit loss reports. And you really can't wait for the end of the year to figure out if you're doing well or not. You actually have to go every 90 days. You need to review and see what your company's doing, set new targets, and move forward. And what I learned through all of those exercises is if I can have a long-term vision, and the longer the better, right? If I can have a 10-year vision of where I want my company to be, and I could break it down into bite-sized pieces. So basically, see the future, see where I want to be, see the vision, and bring it to the present. So I can say, this is what we need to do today to be in alignment with those goals, right? Or where we want the company to be. And every 3 months we adjust, we pivot, or maybe the goal wasn't right, or we have to adjust things here and there, or maybe now we're going to focus on this or whatever, or we got to reset the targets or whatever it is. And so I learned that through business. And then what I ended up doing was applying that to my life. I said, you know what, this goal setting business of once a year, it doesn't work. There's no sense of urgency, right? And so the key, in my point of view, Adam, is like you should have 10 and 5-year goals, but you need to be able to break those 5-year goals into tangible pieces of what you can do right now. And so what I would do if I were you is I would look at a 5-year vision of what you want your life to be, or if it's a business goal or whatever it is, and then think about what you have to do now to be in alignment with those goals.
Yeah.
And then review every 3 months. Every 3 months, review what it is that you're doing. And this works on all levels, like spirituality, physical fitness, finances, business, real estate, anything you want to achieve, you need to be able to measure, right? You need a measuring stick. My net worth is this much today, and I want it to be X amount by 5 years from now. And so in 3 months, I should be on track to doing this. And these are the action steps that I have to take in order to get to that point, right?
I guess my problem is I'm still writing the dumb shit you were writing on your page, right? Like I've got the car, the truck, the snowmobile, the trailers, the cabin in the woods. So like now what I'm writing down is like, to me, it just seems like I'm writing down different versions of those things that you were writing, at 17. Like, what is it? A better car? Like, really? I need a better car? That sounds stupid. That's a waste of time. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, a plane would be cool. And then you're like, really? Do you actually need a plane? And then like, you start thinking about these goals. And like, if we talk about, spiritual, it's like, okay, well, like I meditate every day, and you're like, okay, I don't even care. Like, I just don't care about that. And then again, if I like write down, if I'm like, oh, in 5 years, I'll have like the sickest 6-pack, I'll be so jacked. And I'm just like, that's just a faster car. So I guess, I have a hard time, understanding, like, once you have a lot of those material things checked off, cool, check, got that stuff. Like, I guess just like, how do you manage thinking bigger about things that actually matter? Like, I guess I'm still probably just thinking about this the wrong way. Like,
well, the thing is, the things are very, very, very low on my list, right? The goals, the things that I think about is like, okay, my company, for example, Wealth Genius. I think about what is the impact, what is the ultimate impact that I want to leave behind, and what would be the legacy? How many people can it help? How many, so I think in terms of that, but it all has to, and I'll be honest with you, you're not the only person that suffers with of that. You have to figure out what your why is, right? And why do you want these things? Because it's not the things that you want. Like those are just like those are just things. But why do you want them? Right? Like you want a bigger car, but why? Why is that important to you? Because if it's not important to you, if there's no reason why you need to achieve those goals, then you probably won't get there. Elon Musk has 100-year goal, right? He has goals that he will never be alive to see them through. Like he will never be alive to see us traveling like tourists to Mars, but it will happen, right? Walt Disney died before Disney World was completed. He didn't get to see like the magnitude of what he actually did. And maybe that wasn't even the point, because, last month I was there with my family, enjoying what someone's vision was, right? Which of course it's a money making machine, but I don't think that was the mission.
Yeah. And I guess, and my point is like, I've come to realize that like most of the things just don't matter. Like I do have passions. Like I'm very passionate about some of the things that I do collect. Like I actually do love vehicles for the purpose of driving them, not to randomly flex cars, but I guess like one of my challenges
You have
is
a Dodge
like,
Neon.
yeah, fucking Dodge Neon. Let's go, man. 5-speed manual. Those things are wild. But I guess my challenge is I do sometimes worry that my goals are on a trivial scale, right? Like, and I've done a bunch of mentorship too for like the things that I've done really well in like a real estate wholesaling. I've taught people how to do that, and I've actually made a few people millionaires too myself already, which is great. It feels amazing to help people in that way. But I feel like it could be a stale endeavor if I look back in 20 years and was like, okay, like I helped whatever, a few people become real estate millionaires. And like, that sounds cool. But like Elon's going to fucking Mars. Right. And so like, sometimes you're like, wow, that's insane. Or like Disney, you bring up Disney, like how many children has that inspired to like imagine? Right. And I think that's kind of his broader vision was like, what if we could get people and children and well, actually just people to believe that they can imagine, right? That they can believe in magic, which is obviously it's like that. It's so simple, but it's so beautiful at the same time. Like, yeah, you can actually dream and like do anything you want. I think that's the purpose of the vision for that one. And like, that is so epic that like that seems very worthwhile, where I do not want to find myself in 50, 60 years being like, yeah, I helped some people make some more money. And like, maybe that helped their situation a bit, but I don't know.
The money is just a tool. It will make you more of who you are. And in my opinion, I don't want to, like, it's like being a millionaire, big deal. Are you free? Are you free of the bondage of society's norms and what society wants you to do? And if you're free, I'm willing to bet that you're not gonna I've yet to meet someone that ultimately all they want is like one more boat, one more Ferrari, and and an airplane. Those things are nice and they may be on the list, but most people want to do something really amazing with their lives. And that, when I say I'm a freedom fighter, I fight for people's financial freedom so they can have the time in order to give back to society. And if everyone had their time back and everyone was free, I think there'd be like Renaissance on earth, because I'm willing to bet that everyone would just go after whatever fulfills them. Maybe it's helping young kids. Maybe it's instead of Mars, it's Jupiter now. Like someone has this idea to go to Jupiter. The reason why Elon Musk had this idea to go to Mars is because he was wealthy. He had the time freedom to be able to create. And that's what I'm after. I'm after helping people achieve time freedom, because when they have time freedom, people are going to come up with the things that we haven't even come up with yet. Maybe it's Jupiter. Maybe it's like, maybe it's sitting in front of our face. We don't know.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of liberating people from their time constraints and things like that. And I guess to a degree, I've certainly helped some people do that. But I don't know. Like, I don't know why it just doesn't sit with me right that like that would be my only function too in the system. Like, are we doing enough? Do you think?
Like, well, the thing is, I want you to think about the why. Like, why is it like sometimes people don't spend enough time. And I'm looking for this book here. I had it here. Simon Sinek talks about
start with why.
Yeah. And I think one of the books, it's really well put where it talks about 7 layers deep, going 7 layers.
Yeah, and that exercise is awesome.
Yeah, and understanding like why you want something, and rarely it's ever about the stuff.
Yeah, it's never about the stuff. Like as soon as you have like basic needs, it's never about the stuff.
Yeah. And then the stuff, like in my experience, like money and all that stuff, it's a byproduct. It's a result of you pursuing or having something, really amazing that you want to do with your life. Helping people achieve financial freedom and doing it for all of this time, I realize how amazing people are. Like, people are givers, and we think that everyone is just like in competition and there's not enough for everyone. There's absolutely enough for everyone. We live in an abundance universe, and ultimately when people have that, they do good things in life. Is there an occasional prick here and there? Sure. You can move all the way across the world and there's the asshole again, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be someone somewhere, but the majority
it's been us at times.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think people are good. And giving a chance, you give people a chance, they'll do good things.
Absolutely. I love that, man. Well, Alfonso, I think it's a great place to wrap our podcast right there. I know we had some times get switched around today, so I know you got things coming up for yourself, and I want to be respectful of your time, man. So I really appreciate you coming on today, and it was a pleasure meeting you and talking to you, dude. Like, this why I love doing this show, because I get to talk to very interesting people, and you certainly fit the category.
Well, you know what? I think you're the kind of guy we in person, we can sit down and have a beer together. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's how, that's the feeling that I get.
That's the measure of a man. Could I have a beer with this guy?
Yeah. Exactly.
That passes the test. So I would love that, man.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified the next time we're doing a video. And guess what? Like, share, dislike, I don't care. Let me see how that looks.